Hello farmers and aspiring farmers, thank you for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program. You are watching Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now farmers, did you know that we do have two types of butternuts amongst the various varieties that we have here in Zimbabwe? To my left, I am holding the fresh butternut, that one which you can cut directly and send to the pot and you can enjoy your meal. And to my right, I am holding the gigantic butternut for the processed market. Now today we are going to be looking at butternut production, aligning it to our vegetable calendar. And to discuss this and more, I have taken the liberty of inviting Masimba Kanyepi. He is a seasoned agronomist working with Seedco in horticulture. Masimba, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Wazi. How are you?
I'm okay.
Thanks.
As I highlighted earlier, we have types of butternuts which we are going to be looking at on a deeper level as we proceed with our episode. But in this very first segment, I want you to talk to our audience in terms of maybe a brief synopsis or background of butternut production here in Zimbabwe. What is sustainable and sizable in your opinion as a horticultural expert?
Okay, thank you so much. With regards to that, with butternuts in Zim, it can be grown anywhere, and we just have to avoid those periods where we experience too much frost. And then we just also to avoid those periods where we receive a lot of rain, because these crops are just sensitive to frost as well as too much rainfall. But a very simple or easy crop to produce.
Now, Masimba, you spoke of varieties. I would want you to highlight the most common varieties of butternuts here in Zimbabwe that our farmers are producing.
Yes, sure. If you look at the butternuts that like you highlighted earlier on, that we have got fresh market varieties, then we have got processing varieties. With fresh market in our basket, for us to even target those high performing genetics, we would recommend farmers to touch varieties like Prism, varieties like Granite. Those are varieties that can give us small to medium size fruits of our of our butternuts. And without further ado, let me just quickly jump into the plant population so that we then come direct to
the yield.
Yes, to the yield parts. So when you talk of butternuts hybrid seed, we are looking at between 17 to 20,000 seeds or plants per hectare that you need for us to say we have done 1 hectare. So in that regards, we'll be probably using a plant spacing, a plant spacing of about 50 to 60 centimeters from plant to plant, or even your inroads. So as you can see in this field, we have planted our butternuts in our 1 meter wide beds.
Okay.
But the distance between center to center is about 1.5 meters. Then when we look at our varieties now, looking at the yields aspect, starting with the fresh markets, if we can achieve 5 to 6 fruits per plant, we are assured already of getting around 4.8 to almost 6 kgs per plant. The reason why we are coming up with such yields or figures, we are saying with one fruit we should be able to get around 800 grams to almost a kilo from one fruit. So if you then say I have now done my 1 hectare of about 20,000 plants, we are now talking of yields around 80 to 100 tons per hectare. That alone we can easily achieve with the fresh market butternuts, your Prism or your Granite. Then if I then move on to the processing ones, which you have given them another vigorous name, the gigantic ones. Yes. These ones, each fruit you should be able to get about 5 or 6 kgs. I'm sure when you're actually struggling to lift one.
It's heavy.
It's heavy, yes. Then again with the same plant population, if you can achieve just 2 fruits per plant, I know other farmers are getting up to 4 or 5 fruits
per plant.
Yes, it depends with your management as well. We are talking of just 10 kgs from 2 plants.
Okay.
And if you can then do your mathematics correct with 17,000 or 20,000 plants per hectare, we are close to 200 tons per hectare. This now is coming from the processing ones. In our basket, varieties to watch out are Ultra and Maxim. Those are some of the varieties which are giving us such excellent yields in Zim.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Masimba, I want us to talk about days to maturity, from land preparation up to harvesting or up to maturity senescence. But as we do that, I also want you to highlight and enlighten our audience in terms of land preparation. What are we looking at?
Okay, it's fine. Thank you so much. Then again, with hybrid varieties, we normally recommend farmers to do it via propagating of seed. Of seeds.
Okay.
Why? Butternut seed can actually entice the rodents. So when you come direct and seed it into the field, you discover that at times your plant population will be affected, because those rodents who follow that scent
of the butternut seed.
Yes, of the butternut seed, they can come pick, they can actually destroy even
the entire hectare.
Yes, the entire hectare. So our advice with butternut seed, which is F1 or hybrid, is to go via the propagation method, because you've got a small piece of area which you are managing, which you are monitoring, and I can assure you that there's a higher chance of you probably achieving over 90% of your germination. Then after a thorough land prep, where everything is done according to the recommendations which your agronomist will probably advise you, looking at the area where your field is sited, then transplanting will be easier. And again, we are now bringing a crop which is already been established, and for us to then worry about all these other rodents is something that we wouldn't worry. But of course, some, they tend to do it direct into the field, especially if they are using that cheaper seed, the OPV. Yeah, with 2 kgs per hectare, they can afford even to go back again and buy some more seed
and
for
correct
the
poor
or compensate
germination.
the poor germination. But in this case, we are trying to maximize with our hybrid seed, which is more expensive because of other attributes which is coming in with. So we try as much as possible to make sure that we do it via we transplant. With butternut yield, we normally realize excellent yields if we also take into consideration the issues to do with pollination. So with pollination, we have always recommended farmers to make sure that they plant those flowers or trees, or even some vegetables like the baby melons, which are also closer to, which can also attract the bees. Yes, so that part of pollination is complete. You'd find that with pollination, crops like butternuts, obviously I can also mention the watermelons and cucumbers, they thrive, or they give us better yields when we factor in that. So it's very, very key to make sure that when you venture into this project of butternut production, you have invested a bit in your bees as well. But obviously you also enjoy the honey.
There you heard it, viewers. Masimba here giving us a detailed presentation when it comes to butternut production for our local farmers here in Zimbabwe. On that note, we have come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Today, we are looking at butternut production. And as I've alluded earlier in the first segment, we do have 2 types of butternuts amongst the various varieties that Masimba here was mentioning. We do have the fresh market butternut and also the processing market butternut. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wazanai Manyore, so 0772807506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wazanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more on our YouTube channel. It's Agribusiness with Wazanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness 110. Now, earlier on, before into the break, Masimba here was telling us of the importance of pollination in crops such as butternuts, cucumbers, and so forth. Masimba, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
From pollination, Masimba, I want us to divert a bit and talk about our fertilizer application regimen, or even the types of fertilizers and the quantities that are required per hectare.
Okay, thank you so much. Now if you now look at our fertilizer, the quantities required, like I then mentioned earlier on, that it all determines, especially with our base of fertilizer, it's all determined about, on the soil analysis results that as farmers would have get. But obviously farmers will also want to know the general guide for the budgetary purposes, so that they don't go probably astray when it comes to the quantities required. With our base oil fertilizer, which is normally your compound C, we are looking at around 450 to about 500 kgs per hectare, which is used at the time of your planting. And again, when we talk of our AN, yes, around 200 kgs is enough for you to do 1 hectare. And again, it is applied as split applications. We are saying at 2 weeks after your transplanting, then at 4 weeks, then at 6 weeks again.
Okay.
But if you look at another question which you raised earlier on, was the days to maturity of these varieties. Obviously, they differ. If you look at the fresh market ones, which are slightly smaller or medium size, they mature around 60 or 75 days to maturity.
Okay.
Whereas also the processing ones, which are much bigger, they can go up to 80, 85, even 90 days to maturity.
Okay.
So you'd find that issues also to do with your water irrigation, it varies as well, because there's a crop which is going also to take longer in the field than the other. But again, it is always difficult for us to recommend the farmers the exact quantities of water which they should apply to a crop. We don't want to talk about 500 mils, 600 mils or what. No, we don't want to mislead farmers. But a farmer who is on the ground, who is usually on the ground, it is always the thumb which can determine, is my crop now thirsty? Always check your moisture levels.
Oh, in the soil.
Yes, and make sure, because like today, as you can see, the sky is clear. Which means the sun is just hitting direct the ground, and the rate of transpiration is very, very high. Crops are losing water. So you can't just say, no, I should always apply this. Because tomorrow you never know, the weather will be opposite.
Exactly.
And then you find that the moisture levels will still be there. So a farmer who is always there, vegetable production is more like a breastfeeding mother. You just have to be there making sure that you are checking your moisture levels and you are applying the water at the right time. When you need it. When you don't need it, please don't. Because the more you apply water, applying, again, you are not doing any favor to your crop. It is not having that time, enough time to absorb the nutrients.
And process the water.
Yeah, and process the water. Yeah. So you just have to be there monitoring and see, is it now the right time, and so forth. So jumping onto your diseases and pests, which you also highlighted.
But before we talk about it, Masimba, I also want to highlight to our audience that generally modes of irrigation come with their own burdens. There are pros and cons to every type or technique you are using in irrigation. I want you to enlighten our audience in terms of the insect pests and diseases that arise as maybe after application of water. You do understand that there is a relationship between water application and weed management.
Thank you so much. Just looking at the overhead irrigation in response to your question, you would find that with overhead, it means we are directly watering our leaves. When diseases come, they come through the leaves. When pests come, they also want to enjoy the leaves. So you'd find that when you water, soon after applying your chemicals, you'd find that at times those chemicals are not going to be effective enough to destroy or to stop any disease which
of too much moisture.
Too much moisture, and again you are easily washing those leaves that you have
treated.
Yes, you have treated with your chemical. You'd find that we have got problems like fruit fly, which normally wants to even destroy the fruit or the leaves. Then you'd find that when you do your overhead irrigation without giving enough time for your chemical to destroy that pest, then you won't be doing any favor to your crop. Then when you look at the drip irrigation part, then find that yes, it's mainly focusing on making sure that the water drops into the soil, and that water then moves with the bed in form of oxygenated water, which can also allow the plants to absorb water at a rate which will allow it, to enjoy all the nutrients there.
Yes.
So it find that that is the best form of irrigation when it comes to absorption of nutrients. But again, it has got also some disadvantages, because you find that with this crop, it is like spreading, it's crawling all over.
In search of moisture.
Yes, in search of moisture. So when you are now using the drip, it means water is being supplied from this station, but when the crop is now visiting 2 meters, 3 meters away, it can also face some challenges of not getting enough water. Remember, they also develop those other funny roots when it also crops. But again, to me, is drip, of course, it saves water. Overhead, you use more water. And again, over irrigating, you'd find that crops also don't perform. So in a nutshell, that's what I would want to comment, especially when it comes to your irrigation versus your chemical applications and so on. Yes.
Now, Masimba, thank you so much for that. I'm going to have to cut you short and talk of weed management when we come back after the break.
Thank you.
There you heard it, viewers. Masimba here enlightening us in terms of the pests and diseases and even the effective modes of irrigation in butternut production. On that note, we have come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now we are here in the very final segment of your program where we are looking at commercial butternut production. Like we highlighted earlier when I was joined by Masimba, we're looking at the fresh market butternut and also the processing market butternut. At this point in time, to look specifically at marketing issues, I have taken the liberty of inviting Francis Mapindani. He is a horticultural expert with immense knowledge when it comes to marketing of such products. Francis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Waza. It's always a nice time to be on this show.
Yes. As we get into our discussion, Francis, would you say a Zimbabwean farmer can make a living off of butternut, commercial butternut production?
Most definitely, Waza. I feel like butternut is one of those crops that I feel like most of the youths in Zimbabwe and most of the general farmers who are here in Zimbabwe can actually maximize on. Because it's a crop that's coming through probably as something that has a higher return, probably that we can possibly say it has a higher return per dollar invested, because we're looking at this crop potentially having a return per dollar invested that can hover probably between around $3 to even $4 for each and every dollar that you invest, especially if you grow them during the right time. And that's one thing that our farmers need to know, especially when it comes to marketing of these crops, because especially with butternut, we have times when a lot of farmers probably just rush into the crop. But then there are also certain windows which are quite good as well, that probably some climates can actually maybe utilize. Here in Zimbabwe, if we actually look at it, the time for growing our butternut starts from around August to around possibly, I think the latest would be end of January here in the high veld. But in the low veld, we can see that this planting can even go as deep as even up until March to April. But the general population here in Zimbabwe, the general farmers, most of the time, they can actually just grow this once targeting the public markets, which include Mbari, which include the Sakubas, and they can actually just get a very good return from that. So when we look at the markets, it's kind of segmented depending on the type of butternut that you're going to grow. And I'm pretty sure in the last segment, we had Masimba talking about the different types of butternut that are here in Zimbabwe. There's the processing, and then there's the fresh market butternut. The fresh market butternut is this one, the one that we have, which hovers usually between the range of around 1.4 to around 1.8 kgs maximum, which is what the market wants. Because what we just want is the butternut that probably can feed a family and probably offers the taste that we need, because butternut is supposed to be tasty, supposed to be sweet, supposed to have a good texture, which is something that we need. And if we look at this butternut, it's something that offers that, especially with the size that you can see here. You can see that the butternut has a very, very good fleshy component in it, and then it has a lower size, especially when it comes to the seed cavity that it has, because the seed cavity is here at the bottom, and we have most of it as flesh. This is actually quite good, because that's what our farmers want. They want to target more on the flesh and less on the seed, because we just want the butternut like that as well. So what we are targeting, we want a butternut that gives you that range between the 1.8 that can feed a family, and we don't have to leave any other part of the butternut as we go. So this size is quite okay. Then the second segment, obviously, is the processing butternut, like the one that you're holding, Waza. That's a very, very beautiful butternut. But that one, I don't feel like our farmers, our consumers here in Zimbabwe would actually love a butternut like that.
Because no one is mainly into processing of these butternuts. And also, Francis, I want you to highlight, when we talk of processing butternut, what kind of products are being processed emanating from these gigantic butternuts?
Yes, we actually look at that butternut coming through. Pretty sure there used to be some processors who were
dried soups.
Yeah, they were trying soups. They were trying purees.
Yes, for babies.
Especially for the baby foods.
Yes.
There's a lot of that comes through as well, and they use that butternut because it has a huge fleshy component and a small seed cavity, which
Okay.
means that you have more flesh, and this one is actually giving you more per square meter of your butternut. So this one is actually a very good variety for that, for the processing. But unfortunately, the processing side has been a bit much more laid back of late, so it's something that might be a bit risky for you, especially if you grow a butternut like that, because you struggle in the market. You definitely know that
looking for processors.
you look at Mbari won't take that. Mbari won't take the size.
They want the fresh market
the
one.
fresh market kind of butternut.
Okay, I want us to look at issues surrounding post-harvest maintenance or curbing losses during our harvesting. What are we looking at in terms of butternut production, and also how do you maintain your butternut up to marketing, maybe in storage or in a certain room? What are we looking at, the conditions that are conducive to make sure that the butternut is kept fresh and attractive to the eye?
Lovely. I think the first thing that we might have to just look at is probably just looking for the pack sizes that we probably sell these butternuts in most of the time. It depends mostly with the market. Some markets would rather, especially the open markets, they actually sell this in 60 kg bags.
Okay.
You can put these ones all and fill them up in a 60 kg bag, seal it up and send it to Mbari, and they'll take it, and they'll be offering a stagnant price that they can offer for that. Then obviously there's the other side, which is the formal market. We're looking at the markets which include probably the supermarkets, which include the wholesalers. Those ones you can pre-package them probably in about 8 to 10 kg kind of pockets in terms of sizes, or even the 5 kgs as well, depending on what the consumers want at the end of the day. But the one thing that we've noticed obviously is that the 10 kgs are quite much more popular, especially for some homes which actually love this. And one thing that we actually want to safeguard most of our consumers when it comes to and also the farmer at the end of the day, in terms of increasing that shelf life, is obviously to look at the post-harvest handling of this crop, especially when it comes to the harvesting. One element that I feel like a lot of farmers probably they might not actually get to know about is the importance of the stalk. The stalk is very important because once you rip the stalk off, there's a challenge that you leave a wound on the butternut, which can be a very good inlet for infection into our butternut. That really comes through as one thing that actually like reduces our shelf life of our butternut, because it starts rotting. It won't even last more than a month with it, because it starts rotting soon after that. But on your harvesting, if you actually harvest it and you leave the stalk on, that's one of the best ways to actually just get the best out of your butternut. And depends also as well shelf life. It also depends on your variety that you are choosing. Some varieties have a better shelf life, especially the hybrids that a lot of companies offer on the market. The hybrids come through as the kind of products that kind of like have a bit of an enhancement. They are kind of like made to actually get to safeguard the farmer at the end of the day. So market research is necessary to know about that. So hybrids, they come through and really help with that. With the OPVs, yes, they might offer that, but then the problem with OPVs, the seed which is not hybrid, we have a problem where sometimes we don't have a bit of uniformity and a bit of certainty that we want to know about the variety, because it might differ from company to company in terms of that kind of like time that it might take under storage. So it's always very necessary for us to look at that. So one other thing that we can our farmers can probably look at is obviously just to look for a better storage area, especially a shed. Probably you can get a shed, or you can get a warehouse where you can put these butternuts in. One thing that we need, good aeration. We need the room to be a bit much more darker, so that at least we don't encourage the greening on the shoulders like you can see with those ones, because probably that is just a sign that there's still sunlight, which is kind of the butternut is still intercepting some sunlight. So that's one thing that we might need to make sure that we don't have. And obviously just make it dry, because being dry, it actually helps through, because there is no it doesn't encourage any microbial action, microbial growth, microbial reproduction that can happen. Microbial reproduction, those are the fungi, the bacteria that can come through and actually trigger our butternut to start rotting. So once we just maintain that, I think we can actually push more in terms of our butternut shelf life.
Thank you so much, Francis, for such a detailed presentation when it comes to the market of these butternuts. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much, Wata.
And there you heard it, viewers. From me, your host, Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.